Loud mode. Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to the Metaverse Plaza, and you can just walk around if you want, but the main thing will happen inside the building. So you're free to walk inside and see the bar area at the right on the hall, and then the theater where we're gonna have the panel discussion is on the left. So feel free to enter, and we're gonna meet everyone in the theater. Thanks for coming. Okay, we'll be ready to start. Welcome everybody. Welcome everyone for being brave enough to be here. This is as we explained the communications we did. This is mostly a social experiment that we're doing. So we're trying to do something that we do normally physically or online through a video call platforms. We're trying to do it here face to face. So the whole purpose of this is having fun and having this first experience in the conference in VR. It's the first time that GamesBeat organizes a VR networking like this, and I hope you all enjoy the experience. This place you are at is a part of a project called Meetaverse that I personally run. In my mind, this is like a cultural center. Apart from conferences and meetings, I do all kind of stuff here, exhibitions. We even try to do a theater plays. We change the settings all the time, and it's a way. It's a safe way of experimenting with cultural things and with social interactions. While we wait for Carolina, I'm going to show you a video. This event is actually made possible by, thanks to the sponsorship of Superpower and KuCoin. And Superpower CEO wanted to say a few words, so he's not here as an avatar today, but he sent us a video that I'm going to play for you right now. Give me a moment.
Hi everyone, this is Roy from Superpower. Superpower is a Web3 game publisher. We help Web2 developers and projects to go to Web3 to build Metaverse. I'd like to thank GamesBeat for offering me this opportunity to meet everyone virtually. So I personally been in the game space for over 10 years and in the crypto space for over 4 years. I've been through multiple cycles of both industry. So I'd like to share some of my perspective into Metaverse versus game. There's multiple aspects that's very different in terms of the Metaverse and the game built on Web2. I think first of all, Metaverse is inseparable from Web3 because you need a very strong economy layer as a built on top of blockchain to make sure the whole universe is sustainable and be supportive and compatible with other features I'm about to say. So there are multiple properties on the Metaverse that's different from games, including how scalability is, economy loop it is, consensus, user driver, the growth method, live ops, and in terms of size of the market. So one of the key metrics, key properties, I think, for a metaverse to be different from the game in Web 2 is the consensus. You require a super strong consensus to build a community to stick around you. Some people even call that like as a cult culture, which is to a certain extent is true in terms of in terms of consensus, how strong consensus is. I think anyone building a metaverse need to be thinking carefully about how to build your community, to build a consensus together. And also, user driver is very different from Metaverse and Web 2 games, where Web 2 games, people are more into coming on board to enjoy the experience, while in Web 3's Metaverse, people are coming here more for the asset through the experience. So, which is resulting in some of the terms that people might heard of because I call that played and earn, right? I think play is more of an experience, but the end goal is very clearly is the earn part. So I think that's a very clear differentiator. The growth method is very different from traditional Web 2 game performance marketing, user acquisition, rather more focusing in terms of the community and social. Live ops, you get your live ops started from day one instead of like post a product. But most importantly, I think it's great for us to all realize the market size for the metaverse now, we're talking into trillions of dollars. So super excited for the space. We're all at the beginning of the whole journey. I would like to work with every one of you here to explore how we can build a new project in the metaverse and do it together. Thank you so much. And my email is roy@superpower.io. So looking forward to talking more. Thank you.
So thank you, Roy. Thank you for being so brave to sponsor this this event. Well, I don't know where Carolina is, but we'll find her soon. But I would like you, the four of you here, to introduce yourselves. Maybe starting from my left, from my closest one, Philip. Do you want to please introduce yourself and share with the audience who you are, why you're here?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Philip Rosedale. Sorry for my funny name there. It's probably from an old AltSpace account, and it's a Paul Simon song. I'm the founder of Second Life, which is a virtual world, and I am the co-founder of High Fidelity, which for the last 10 years has also been working on VR-based virtual worlds. So it reminds me, this feels like being in one of the many High Fidelity talks and events like this that we've done in the past. So it's fun to be back in a headset. So good to meet you.
Max?
Yes, so I'm Max from Etermax. We are the creators of a couple of games that were popular, Apagados either from Spain, or Trivia Crack, Preguntados from the rest of the world. We are focused on content-based, especially trivia and social games, and we are building our own trivia metaverse request. That's why I'm here testing the experience. We are also launched this year a blockchain studio, and we are going to focus on blockchain games. So very happy to be here.
Aleissia?
Hi.
Don't go away, Max.
Oh.
Max is going somewhere. Go ahead, Aleissia.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name's Aleissia Laidacker. I'm a consultant advisor with a number of Web3 companies, such as the Open Metaverse Association. Previously, I led tech and product at companies like Magic Leap, The Mill, and led gameplay at Ubisoft for many years. And I'm in the process of launching a new company soon called Maven XR, where we're focused on the intersection of Web3 and augmented reality.
Okay,
Nice.
and Carolina, now I took off the stage blocker, so you can join us here. Okay, so we were introducing ourselves, Carolina, so if you can share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Carolina Cruz. I'm a professor at the University of Central Florida, and I have been doing VR and I guess the Metaverse and predecessors of the Metaverse because I'm one of the people from the first wave of the 90s. So a lot of people know me because I developed the technology of the Cave virtual reality system, but the audience might be very young to know what that is. And I do most of my work has nothing to do with gaming, it's with using VR in industrial applications primarily.
Okay, I'm having some problems with your microphone, so I'm going to give you a microphone, like a real one. Dean, we all know you. You're the host of the GamesBeat, but can you tell us a little bit about you as well?
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm the lead writer for GamesBeat at VentureBeat. I've been working for VentureBeat for 14 years now and covering games since 1996 and tech since 1988, actually. Wow. So been around a long time, and yeah, I'm putting my Quest 2 to work here, and it's working quite well. Happy to see a bunch of familiar faces here in avatar form. So happy to be here.
Mm-hmm. So how do you guys feel here? I mean, how do you feel this experience? How what is left and what is better from other social interaction experience that we usually use? Philip, how?
Well, for me, it feels a little bit like home. I've been away for a while. I haven't worn a headset in quite some time, but we had a very similar space where we would have our town hall meetings and, on stage talks like this. And so it's really fun to be back. I love that all the avatars almost every avatar is distinct. We all went through the process. And so I get a kick out of that. I like the fact that everybody looks a little different, and it's a little awkward. It's a little funny to be back after a while wearing one of these things. It reminds you how, it's a little awkward. It's, the walking and, clicking and everything. It's a little awkward.
Yeah,
but this is definitely, Allspace is great. Yeah.
I'm wondering where Max went.
Max is traveling.
Speaking of awkward problems,
he's
lost him.
So we're definitely different. We have different kind of experiences using this. But is this the Metaverse? Do you consider this is like a kind of a full Metaverse experience, or what are we lacking of? Is this how it's going to look like, Aleissia? That you have plenty of experience with VR and AR.
I think it's part of it, and we probably all have our different definitions of what we think the metaverse is. But this in part for sure. I mean, the fact that there's all these different peoples in a space here, we've got some social interactions going. I think Altspace has done a really good job at evolving on those interactions. But for myself, whenever I focus on the metaverse, I'd like to think about that it's not just about building experiences for virtual worlds, but how do those virtual worlds then translate back to the real world and through augmented reality. And I think there's a start here because, again, we're doing this social mixer. I'm sure some of us will meet, we'll exchange contacts, and maybe be able to actually interact with each other outside of this virtual space.
Mm-hmm. There's Max.
Carolina, how... For a VR pioneer like you, at which how different is this reality from the reality that you were envisioning when you were creating the cave?
Well, I mean, I think there is a lot of improvement, and like Aleissia says, I think it's a good beginning based on where the technology is today and the knowledge. But I am, perhaps because I've been doing this for literally over 30 years, I have to tell you that we still have a lot of work to do, because at this moment I feel like I'm scuba diving. I don't know all of you out there, but my face is already hot and sweaty from having this thing in my face. My hand is about to have a cramp because I have to be holding the controller, pressing the button so the microphone doesn't fall off the virtual microphone so you don't hear me. So there is quite a lot of things from the perspective of the physical world piece, to get us into the metaverse that we still have quite a lot of work to do. Because of my work is more tied to doing work in the virtual space, not so much to be actually social. There are things to me that are still very limiting, even though I also agree with some of the other speakers that it's wonderful to see all of us being creative with our avatars and, in my case, hiding our age behind the avatars and things like that. If I'm trying to conduct business today with some of you, it's not going to be super effective because I'm missing a lot of information by looking at your avatar that might not reflect the reality of our conversation. So I think there is a lot of very positive things that we are all doing, and we are all working very hard on addressing this. But I think that we are at the very early beginnings. Now, looking back, 30 years ago, instead of having, about 1.5 pounds of weight on my head, I used to have 20 pounds because that's how much those headsets used to weigh in the 1990s and the 2000s. So that's another huge improvement, of course. But my philosophy to enter the virtual environment is not to put the technology on the user, it's to put the technology on the real space and make the real space to be virtual. So we still have a lot to go in that direction, in my opinion.
And Max, for an entrepreneur like you, with great success in the mobile space in particular, what are the things that are telling you that this is the right moment to jump into the metaverse, into VR in particular?
Well, the truth is that in November I buy all this Quest 2, and I decided to start doing Inside the Metaverse the next month. I think we're in an iPhone moment with the technology. Of course, it's not perfect. I am not in my house. I'm far away, and I have a pretty bad connection. But and there's low FPS and everything, but still I feel totally different from a Zoom call. I see you, I can feel your energy, and I think that's something great that this technology will bring us, and it will keep growing and getting better. For us, it's opportunity. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to build the games I did, for example, Trivia Crack. I imagine a theme park where you can go and share your experiences with people that like the same things as you, and try to gather people and play in a physical way that it's totally different from a cell phone or a computer. I think I just tried the table tennis simulator, and I think nobody's gonna buy a tennis table anymore. So I think it's a great technology, and it's going to grow from here, which is the limit of what anyone of us would use. We wouldn't use something much worse than this, but it's going to get even better until you get those Ray-Bans with perfect resolution and perfect connectivity, and we're all gonna live in an alternate reality. That's my vision of the future.
I'm gonna ask you to mute yourselves when you are not actually speaking, so we don't hear those. Dean, what are your thoughts? What, as an event organizer, as a journalist, what do you see from all the conversations that you are having these days about the metaverse? At which point we are at the moment, in your opinion?
Well, I think people are still happy to experiment in things like this and entertain themselves. But yeah, I feel like we have a ways to go before we get a real metaverse. And I think things like real-time, low latency interaction and faster movement. I think this place looks beautiful the way you've designed it, and so I think the whole setting is awesome. I think I think the avatars that they provide for this purpose, I think, could definitely be beefed up and sort of catch up with the whole environment that you've created here, right? So there's some way to go, but like I said, I'm happy to experiment because during the pandemic, I was quite tired of getting one Zoom call or Google Meet call after another, and simply just got to be tiresome after a while. And so I am more interested in meeting people and doing activities with them, or playing games with them, really. And so I want the interactivity of something like games to come into interactions like this.
Philip, how different is the moment that we're living now than the moment where when you created Second Life? What has changed?
Well, I started Second Life in 1999, and so the compute speed has increased by about a factor of 1,000 as expected since that time. But things are not really so different, except for the headsets we're wearing. The sort of graphics capability and the number of people we can have in a room. We have 50 people here today. It's really not that different than what we were, basically kind of targeting building in Second Life, in the early 2000s. But obviously the VR headsets create so much more opportunity for expression once we can get them comfortable and usable. So I think the hardware changes are significant. I think the software experience of people together is still kind of about what it's been, for the last decade or so, as we've been trying, as we've all as an industry been trying different things.
Hey, you're good now.
Everybody can hear me now. Let's have a big emoticon festival, emote party. Fantastic. It's working. It's all coming together. Yep, sorry about that. So I was saying, Ivan, that we started Second Life in 1999. Visually, things haven't really changed that much because I think the challenges around scale, in particular, a lot of people in one place, have still been pretty daunting for computers. But having headsets on while we're able to meet with people lets us be a lot more expressive. That was what I said.
Okay, and what do you think are the challenges that we have ahead in the coming years? Is this something that we are going to see evolving very quickly? Will we see this bubble of the metaverse just explode at some moment? How do you feel about this all this noise that the metaverse is doing versus reality?
Who wants to take one?
Any of you? Just you can take it. You can take it first, and then the others.
I mean, I think that this word metaverse has sort of come back in a big way. It was, a word that came from Snow Crash originally, and a word that we used all the time when we talked about Second Life as we were building Second Life. I think it's come back because of COVID and because of the idea that, maybe everybody has to socialize from home. And that has gotten everybody excited about kind of restudying, how this is all going to work. And, to your point about what needs to happen to get to there, there's only 50 people here. A typical gathering, like a conference event, right, would probably have several hundred people in the plenary session and in breakouts a lot of times. And I think that is a very specific technology goal we have to get to. We have to get to a few hundred people in a live event. And I think sharding is not at all a solution for that. It certainly doesn't work for a conference where you're trying to meet people. So I think that technical challenge is probably the biggest one I see at an event like this.
Mm-hmm. Aleissia, do you think that what we are selling with the metaverse is real, or is just exaggerated versus the reality of the technology that we have today? So the expectations of the people are maybe higher than they should be.
I think like Phil said, there's a lot of challenges on the technology side. One right now, everyone who's saying that they're building a metaverse, everyone's kind of building their own standalone metaverse. So they're building their own tools, they're building their own types of characters, they're building their own worlds. And when we talk about the metaverse, or at least what a lot of people, sorry, I just got a pop up. When a lot of people think about what the metaverse can and should be, it's to be able to have interoperability between different types of virtual worlds, whether it is in VR, in a virtual world, in augmented reality. And the reality is there's just no standards that actually exist today for things like that. Our avatars that exist here in Altspace cannot seamlessly go into something like Half-Life or vice versa. We're seeing a lot of challenges as well with game engines. A lot of people are really excited about Web3. How do we start building game worlds and game experiences that can translate from a video game console to web to mobile? But the reality is rendering engines just aren't capable of being able to stream things via web. Like Unreal and Unity are actively trying to work on some of those challenges, but any of us who have done like metaverse experiences for the web and you've used things like pixel streaming, it's so expensive. So it really feels like in a way that we're back to building like games and experiences back in the 90s, where everything was kind of standalone. So we're facing a lot of similar challenges, which is great for some of us who were building that for games a while ago, but we know that there's a lot to be done to be able to get to that interoperability and to be able to support like experiences cross-platform.
And all those companies that are not building the infrastructure of the metaverse, but that are now trying to do things and starting projects, what they're gonna do, what they should be doing at this moment.
If I can
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Carolina.
Yeah, to me, I think we are also perhaps.
Can you take the microphone so we can?
Let me try the microphone. Here we go. Let's try this again.
Mm-hmm.
So when I participate in these kinds of discussions and probably Phil, you've been around as long as I have, or probably longer. I think what I think one of the things that perhaps we're missing in the discussions today is that we get very excited, but we have to understand what exactly are we trying to do. Are we focusing on an environment that is social, entertainment, gathering, that kind of environment, or are we thinking more an environment that is going to be a workplace? Because really, the challenges are not necessarily different, but there are more or less layers on that infrastructure need to be in place. So one aspect, like right here, for example, we have to focus on the capacity, for example, of the network infrastructure. So as Phil says, we can be hundreds or thousands of us in the same meeting, like we can do in reality, and our challenge is perhaps providing the environment, our representation, how we want to appear in the virtual space, and perhaps some additional materials if we want to create the experience. But if I'm trying to make a workspace where I want to, for example, have a simulation of a new engineering design, or I want to have a simulation because I'm a pharmaceutical company and I'm trying to design my next drug, and I have a globally distributed team, it's a very different environment. It's a different kind of metaverse. And I think sometimes when we get all excited about it, we lose a little bit sight of what exactly we are trying to accomplish. And we might want to accomplish all of it, but I'm not sure it's all of it at the same time, or kind of, try to focus on more of the experience and the social interaction, and sort of assume that these other things it's just importing a model into the environment. It's actually a lot more than just importing the model. My other comment that I want to add is that, having been around for such a long time in this world, one of the things that honestly is a little bit frustrating is that the younger generations are extremely enthusiastic about the technology, so that's really wonderful to see. And the fact that the technology is so accessible also makes it, a really nice moment in history, in a sense, to be with the technology. But at the same time, I see a lot of um, people's calling innovations to things that are not really innovations, because there are things that we've been trying to do for 30 years, for 40 years, but now they are not, it's not that they are possible to do right now because they were possible to be done 30 years ago. They're in a sense more practical to do, but it's not an innovation. Like Phil said, Metaverse is not new. I mean, you have Second Life, and before Second Life, there were other things, So the concept of creating this parallel digital reality where we all can go in and either mimic our reality or create a new reality that has been around for a long time. But the innovation comes more on how do we make this really usable, practical, more transparent, not so much one of a kind, like Aleissia was saying. That's really where the innovation is gonna come. And like I said, having around for a long time, I have all these younger people coming to me asking me to support them or invest or doing things, and I'm like, there is not a lot of new in this as a concept. Show me the new on how this concept is actually going to happen and be deployed, because we all know in the 90s there was a big frenzy, and unfortunately we couldn't really deliver. So I want us to deliver this second time around.
You all agree with that view?
I agree partially. I think we call multiple things, and marketing gets in the middle. The truth is that the 1,000-fold of the computers is there, and that will bring us Wi-Fi 6 and 6G and whatever it's going to call. And that ideas that are old, I think, are going to become reality. I don't think it's innovation. It's just this is the time. And when somebody like Meta or Microsoft calls that this is the time, it may not be the time. But if it is, it's how much people you get involved and how much money you invest in content, basically. Because right now it's a matter of content, I think.
Aleissia, Philip, Dean?
My stupid microphone fell away. I was going to make a little tiny comment. It's not a matter of content. This is one of my issues. It's not a matter of content. We have excellent creative content creators. I think right now the challenge that we have is that the content creators are highly specialized people. We don't have sort of the equivalent of a PowerPoint that a teacher at a school can develop a virtual reality space to explain a concept, or to take them to take a trip in history and go visit the Egyptian civilization. To do that, that teacher at this moment cannot do that. So it's on one side, yes, we need the content, but more important than the content, we need as a community to figure out what are those tools that bring it to a level like a PowerPoint has brought the ability to do very sophisticated presentations without having a professional. So that's one of my big sort of mantras. We are far, 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 far from that.
I agree. I think we're on the same line, but what I meant was the key thing here is how many people you get into the thing, right? I mean, there's 10 million of these devices. We need 1,000 billion. And how do you get to that billion? It's a matter of a lot of things. Technological progress, of people just liking the product or being less heavy or more comfortable or apply to more people. So I think we're reaching that point where we're going to have 100 million and then 1,000 million of these headsets. And once we had that there, it's just like when the iPhone came out. There were no apps, so the iPhone was useless, basically. It was nice, everyone was involved or in love with the device, but it couldn't do anything more, or just a few things more than a regular phone. When the apps came, I think, and the creativity of the content, when I mean content, I mean developers, right? People just building things and experiences. I think that's where the revolution of the cell phone became a reality. And I think that this may be that time because we have the tools. We need these people getting involved and money to be invested, which is, I think, something that's going to happen in the following years.
I think it was interesting to see Meta's earnings report today, and they generated $695 million in revenue in the first quarter for the Reality Lab division, and that was up from 534 million. But their loss for the quarter in the Reality Lab division was $2.96 billion. And so, when they close that gap, going to be much more in a sustainable business, right? And so you see how far they have to go. But we have like positive signs, I think, for VR too, where John Goldman, who had earlier started a fund with like a $15 million fund for VR investments in the last cycle 5 years ago. He convinced his investors to come in for a second round. He raised $50 million, announced that this week, and then he's going to pour that into VR games. So, that's definitely progress. And as mentioned, we've got more than 1 million headsets out there. Not sure exactly what the number is now this quarter, but it was the previous quarter. And so, nice to see progress, but away from having sort of a sustainable business still.
And I think that's a good point. Sorry, I'm just like chit-chatting too much, Iván. If you need me to stop,
no.
Stop.
Go
But
ahead.
I've been around for such a long time that I'm like, yay!
No.
but I think as I'm listening to all of you talking, I think another thought that is coming to my mind, which is perhaps direction that all this might go, is that because in my mind, when I talk about VR and I talk about the metaverse, I think on terms of being a place where people can build what they want, people can create in there. But from hearing you talking in general, perhaps the approach to progress is in a sense in parallel to the video gaming industry. People don't develop games, people play games. So perhaps that's more the direction where we create an industry, which we are creating an industry right now, that creates that content, creates those experiences, and VR just becomes just the mechanism to experience that, but not necessarily this new world where we can build, anybody can go in there and build whatever they want, which again, that's what's in the back of my mind. I'm a software engineer, so a lot of the work that I do is trying to simplify the process, because eventually, like I say, I would like a teacher to build an experience, or I would like a mother to build an experience for the young children, or something like that. But perhaps that might be too utopical or something to think about it that way, and be more business oriented and say, well, here's an interface, let's just generate the ads for that interface, and like a phone or a game platform, the users themselves don't develop anything on the platform, they just use and enjoy the platform.
Philip?
I was going to add something from my own experience. You might need to give me the megaphone. I don't know how to do that on the control panel.
Yeah, you have the megaphone, I think. Can you hear, Philip?
No, I bet people can't hear me. Can everybody hear me in the back?
It's
that thing. I don't know how to turn it on myself, but you have to click on.
You are megaphone now.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the thing I was going to add from the Second Life and from the social world experiences, I think these VR experiences broadly can be separated for the purposes of this discussion, and what Carolina was saying as well. These worlds can be separated into experiences that involve comfortably being able to communicate with people that you don't already know, and ones that don't. Like, there are many, many video games, or even multiplayer video games, which are largely passive in the sense that you're having an experience, consuming content, but you're not forced to sort of lean in to establishing a relationship with somebody that you didn't know already, right? The conference experience that you're having in the real world and that we're having here right now is an experience where it's critical to be able to walk up to somebody and establish a relationship with them. In my opinion, the key problem that we still face in this industry is that case where you have to be comfortable interacting with somebody that you didn't already know. And that's the thing that, I've worked on for, overall for 30 years now, but it's a very big challenge. And one that in some cases, we don't even have all the answers to how we're going to fix it yet. Whereas all the rest of VR, for example, building things, right, in a virtual space, those experiences are wonderful. The ability we have to sculpt and to paint and to make things in VR, with the latest tools, even things like Horizons with their in-world building, that stuff is all great. It makes a ton of sense. The challenge is when you get to the point where you do need to be able to interact with other human beings comfortably as an adult. The last thing I would say, right, is that all of the experiences that are driving the numbers, like Dean was talking about, these revenue numbers, everything driving the revenue numbers around Metaverse stuff is kids right now. And that's because kids are comfortable interacting with each other with different styles of avatars and with different affordances. But grown-ups are not comfortable interacting with each other yet. And so I think that's the big thing to figure out how to fix.
Okay, we can, talking about being comfortable interacting with each other, what if we open up some questions from the audience? I know Haley had a question. Haley, you want to do a question? Can I give you the microphone? Can you hear me? Let me just put your megaphone, okay?
Oh no. Hi everyone. So I work. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. Hi.
Yep.
This is great. I work with Dean in VentureBeat. I'm in the the event industry, so this is very interesting to me. Not on the gaming side at all. How do you feel this is going to actually impact the event industry primarily? Can you see us? You said before, we need hundreds of people here. Like, what is, apart from the sweaty headset? And I'm so glad, Carolina, you're mic dropping it, because I think it's actually a very good metaphor, because you've got some mic drops there. But what is fundamentally going to be the mic drop for the event business? I'm sorry if I'm taking up your time, gaming industry, talking about events.
I might jump in there.
I can answer.
Yep. Go ahead, Aleissia.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm glad you bring that up, because as we're all kind of talking quite a bit about gaming, to me, the bit that I'm super excited about with the metaverse and what we're seeing with with virtual experiences that are being made are not in the gaming side of things. One of the challenges that I think both Max and Carolina are talking about is the challenge with content we're seeing and then the tools that exist today. But I'll say some of my favorite experiences that I've seen in the metaverse in the last few years have been virtual concerts that couldn't happen when we couldn't actually be in person. And I think it's so different because we're having musicians come in that are coming up with new ideas for tools and platforms that we should be building to help enable musicians to create virtual concerts and experiences. Me personally, I'm a huge fan of like immersive experiences and things like that. So I can't wait to see what like people like Sleep No More do with Niantic. They talked about that partnership that they have. What is that going to be in an augmented or virtual world? I would love to see Meow Wolf do something crazy and do like a really awesome virtual event that transcends both like their physical experience and the virtual experience. So to me, this is like my favorite part of where the metaverse is going, are events that extend from traditional gaming. And I want to see more of it because we're seeing more platforms, more tools being made to enable creators to make these types of events.
Mm-hmm.
I would ask, I mean, I was thinking about, very interesting hearing your views of the metaverse. And I think we're in the period of time where you have good enough metaverses for each thing, right? There's no great metaverse. It will not be for a long time, but you might have a good metaverse for things like this, or maybe to play certain games, or maybe to do some kind of socialization. So I think, again, it's about getting the right use cases, and with less like technology than being perfect, you get a lot of good use cases. So I think this case, is a very good one. I'm in the middle of nowhere, talking with you. I feel the human aspect of being around you. Like you turn, you look at me. If I had good connection, I mean, it will be more or less like being there. Yes, we don't have 100 people or 500 people, and maybe the FPS are not the best, and a lot of things that we can say about software. But the truth is that we're there. I mean, it's just about pushing a little bit more. So I think this is going to be one of the great use cases, just gathering and talking with people.
Okay, so any other questions from the audience?
There was one
Someone
here.
was raising their hand.
Wait,
Someone was raising their hand right
Who's
here.
raising the hand?
I think Jesse's out there now.
Jesse, you want to say something? I think I gave you my me find you here. 1 second. Jesse.
He's in the back.
Okay, here you are. And now you have the microphone. Can you try now?
Yeah, I just would be curious to get different people's takes on how they think we're going to see the VR, AR, Metaverse industry change over the next 5 years. Right now, it's so dominated by gaming. Do you think it will, 5 years from now, do you think it will continue to be dominated by gaming, or will we see broader applications rise to subsume that?
What's your answer?
Man, I heard a nice
Carolina's
answer
trying to
from
to get the mic again.
Jason. Can you hear me?
It's
I heard an
under the
answer.
sofa here.
Yeah, Dean.
Let me just drop it here for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh. So anyway, you just see it. My comments at the very beginning, just at work, I lose the microphone and I just have to flip-flop sideways to get it. But anyway, the question about, are the gaming's gonna drive this industry? Certainly is. But I also think that there is quite a lot of work that is happening that is not on the public eye, because nowadays it's considered competitive advantage. So in the environments that I moved in, normally, there are quite a rapidly increasing set of applications and a lot of users of this technology that has nothing to do with gaming. There is, of course, quite a lot of work being done in areas related to engineering. So, for example, nowadays, pretty much any car brand that is out there on the streets has VR and AR at any given point on the product development cycle. Some companies are much farther along than others, but I don't think that at this moment there is not a single brand that does not use VR, whether it is for doing the conceptual design of the cars, to do engineering design reviews, to do manufacturing planning, to do customer feedback, to do training for the service centers, marketing. So there's quite a lot of broad range of applications that are in the automobile industry, for example, that are perhaps not as well presented to the public, because again, many companies don't want to talk about this. Another company that uses VR quite actively is the pharmaceutical industry. So there is quite a lot of VR related applications that go from molecular biology kind of work, exploration of different structures that can address certain diseases, and all the way to things like data science visualization, which is a more abstract virtual space to trying to understand. We use right now there is data everywhere. We have vast, data files, and we honestly have run out of real estate on the computer screen. We don't have enough pixels in our monitors anymore. So there is a trend on the non-gaming groups, so trying to explore the three-dimensional real estate that VR provides us for data, new data representations, how to spread that. So myself, I'm doing quite a lot of work on that arena, coming out on, how do I present, gigabytes, terabytes, exabytes, gazillibytes of data in new visual manner. So I think there is perhaps a lot more activity that people might think about in these other areas, and they are really driving the business in a different way than we are talking about here.
Anyone else want to give an answer to this question?
Yeah, I
If
have
you
a
want.
little bit just to add. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
Let me
Yes.
just
Okay.
give me 1 second. Ding, 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 ding. Here you are.
Okay,
Right.
great, thanks. Yeah, I was very encouraged to see all of the investment that NVIDIA is doing with the Omniverse. And, they started out with the relatively simple simulator to test robots designed for the real world in a simulated space. And then they turned that into a much bigger investment into the Omniverse that, is being used to design things like digital twins for factories. Like BMW created an entire robotic factory in the Omniverse first, and then they actually built the factory in the real world. And that's enormously complex, right? And there's like about 700 companies right now that are sort of using the Omniverse, and they're getting, the number of sort of individual users way up as well. And I think what's interesting is that these are more like the companies that are going to spend a lot of money, and some, not all of it will go into VR itself, but a lot of it will go into very metaverse-like experiences. You can access this in various ways, including VR, and you can see different kinds of projects, like, say, NVIDIA talked about doing Earth 2, which is using the world's supercomputers to be able to create a simulation of the Earth on a meter level scale, so that you can then do climate change prediction. And if you can predict climate change for decades to come, then you can actually do something about it. So it's a very worthwhile cause that they're going to spend a lot of money doing, right? And get the world's fastest supercomputers to work on that problem. But once they build that, they basically built a replica of the Earth, and that's usable for anybody who comes after that. Like, people who want to simulate New York City for a video game, right? They can take that chunk and use it. And so I'm very interested in seeing like what kind of synergy then happens between these enterprises or these scientific uses of the metaverse and how it can then be repurposed in very different ways for things like gaming or whatever.
We have at least 3 more questions, unless someone wants to add something on that. Kathleen wanted to say something. I don't know if you have megaphone already.
I still
check.
do. Thank you so much. Yeah, Iván. Yeah, is my voice okay? You can hear me?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Wow. Well, this is just really nice hearing your different perspectives. I'm here as somebody that I do a lot of experience building in areas of digital well-being and creative flow and wonder. So I'm Caitlin Krause. I founded a company, Mindwise. And the more that I build games and experiences, I find that there's almost like a new value system for how you would optimize for repeat behaviors, how people would feel comfortable in a space. And I was just wondering if you have a different standard over the years of your experience with the feedback loops, the user benefits. I hate using the word user, but like players in a system, how they interact and how they feel like they have intrinsic well-being and some kind of reason to feel better through the experience. I'm wondering if any of you have played with different ways of, say, getting repeat gameplay to feel good. Yeah.
Anyone? Anyone could take that question?
Yeah,
I can talk a little bit, maybe. I am currently working on a project that has to do with employee well-being. I'm working with a lot of different type of employees that are at risk of severe stress that of course can translate into physical health problems as well as more serious mental problems like suicide. So we are using VR to give them mental breaks in a sense. So when the situations get very difficult to handle, then it's not feasible for this type of groups or populations to actually take a real break and walk out of their building and go somewhere and all that stuff, because they might really have literally a 5-minute window. An example of that could be 911 operators. Very few people realize the tremendous amount of stress that population is under, especially because of the sense of impotence. They're on the phone, they're addressing an emergency, somebody might be dying, somebody might be getting hurt, and there is really very little they can do other than be on the phone and just trying to keep those people somehow alive or together until the physical help arrives to the location. So these groups are under very severe stress. Now with COVID, a lot of the groups that handle the different COVID-related health programs are also under a lot of stress because many people perhaps don't qualify for the help. So you have a mother with 4 kids is losing the apartment, but for some technicality, the mother doesn't qualify for the state's financial support due to COVID. So those people have a lot of stress, and many of them lead to suicide. So we are working with a very reputable team of psychologists, and we are using VR for that. So it's not necessarily to make them feel good about themselves, which is what you are addressing in your question, but it's a way to use virtual reality on the well-being of the population and transport them, whether we transport them, and I think your company does that as well, take them to a beautiful beach, a beautiful forest, give them those type of breaks. But also we're using this as a way of learning how far this technology can go as far as being effective on these kinds of situations.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. We had a couple of more people wanting to ask questions. One of them was variables. Are under megaphone already. Go ahead. Yep.
So I was originally going to ask about Omniverse, but that was already addressed. So instead, I guess I'd like to bring up this concept of temporary venues. Essentially, every time we create an experience, the experience is, this is in pretty much any metaverse actually, we tell people, hey, come check this out, there's going to be some event. Let's say that you're going to do sing karaoke, or you're going to throw a party, or you're going to have an event like this. And I think something happens in people's minds where essentially they, I'm trying to think how to explain it. They start to see that as a temporary venue. They go to it, they enjoy the experience. They tell everybody, hey, I had a great time. This is great. Let me know when you have another one. And then they leave. And they won't come back until you literally have them RSVP for another event. So I guess what my question is, have you guys noticed this effect? And is it a psychological thing? Is it specific only to virtual worlds? And what can be done to mitigate it, because it obviously causes a dissolving of all worlds. Like they just start to leak users, locations leak users, they just start to vanish. It shuts down entire, places as a result. Anyways, just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I can answer that. I think that it's a matter of usage. When the first things in the web were starting to be available, nobody used it, and people would say, "This is useless. I had fun. I used it one time." I remember the first time I downloaded ICQ. Nobody was there. Just chat with another guy and said, "This is useless." And then 2 years from there, everyone was chatting through ICQ, and that became Messenger, and that became everything we know right now. I think people need to get used to doing things, and at the first are just like you said, they're just go experience something and get back to your life. Then you get that Facebook effect when something it's really interesting. For example, I like Poker Stars VR, right? It's just a game here in MetaQuest, and I like going there just like a regular game. It's not just an experience. I go there and I talk to different people. I play poker. I don't know. I see things. I think that we will gradually see that more people coming to these experiences, and then the other people are going to come back because of the other people, not because of the experience itself. And maybe some of the content that they create, like Carolina said, I mean, I believe content creation is important, but it has a limit, right? In Facebook, there's a lot of content creators. Right? It's just pictures and things that you say or you write or whatever. And so there are different levels of content, but you need both. I think we need big companies investing in big technology, and then people doing these micro experiences for each people and start segmenting. And then when you have segmentation and then you have groups, then you have, I think, the effect you have right now on the cell phone.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there was another question, I think, Rahul. A question. Let me just put you in megaphone.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So I'm actually just doing a little bit of research for my indie game development company, and a big question our development team had was really it's like a two-part question. What are the biggest areas of benefit for building games for the RPG games specifically for the Metaverse platform, if that's possible, and what are the biggest areas of opportunity? I hope that question makes sense.
Anyone wants to take the question?
So I guess that was what are the areas of investment opportunity for the Metaverse? I guess I can.
No, when it comes to development itself, like what are the biggest areas?
Let me hold on a second. Let me put you in. Hold on a second. Hold. Okay. Rahul.
It was more for developers, I guess. He was saying.
Yeah. Okay. Now
yeah.
Rahul,
it's more from a development standpoint, where in an effort to attract more developers and independent game studios to the Metaverse platform as an area of where this is where you want to be releasing games and this is the future. What would be the area of like this is what makes it special, different, and unique, and this is where we still need to work on. This is the areas of opportunity.
I do think a huge amount of money is sort of being poured into the space by Meta, right? And that evidenced by the fact that they're making $700 million in revenue per quarter, but they're still losing $2.9 billion, and some of that budget is really going into development and investing in various development studios. Like last week they announced they're basically funding a Ghostbusters game, right? And getting a developer to do that. And so there's a lot of those kinds of opportunities out there. I think I mentioned that Tower 26, John Goldman, has raised a $50 million fund to invest into different kinds of VR gaming projects as well. And I think it's still going to be a subset of the larger investment that's happening. It is growing, I think, but there are other things, other sort of categories right now, like 128 blockchain game companies got funded in Q1, and that was $1.2 billion. 43 mobile game companies raised money, and that was $1 billion. And, a lot of money still going into AAA games and console games, PC games, and so VR is kind of getting much smaller slice in that bigger picture of the game industry. And then I think those enterprises I mentioned, maybe through Omniverse and things like that, on the enterprise side, is also going to be a source of money for developers as well.
And I guess just to add on that, exactly what you just said, there's so much funding going into Web3 right now. A lot of them that are making a lot of money off of NFT collections and kind of making a lot of promises about translating that into metaverse worlds. There's such a demand to create tooling and platforms and experiences and content for these Web3 based projects. So if you're a developer, if you know a group of developers that are looking kind of for like, where is there a lot of help that's needed, I think there's huge opportunities in that space.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think we should be ending up with the panel. Thank you so much, each one of you, for participating. Even Philip, that I think his battery died or something because he disappeared a few seconds ago. I don't know if he's coming back or not. But thank you very much for accepting trying this social experiment. I hope you enjoy it, and you. Even though we had like some issues, some using issues and technical issues during the panel, I think it worked quite well. We were able to feel ourselves like in the same room, in the same place, even though we are physically so apart from each other. And I invite you to go back to the bar now and enjoy some drinks as long as you want, and just looking forward to seeing you again at some point. I've seen some friends that it's been a while since I don't see them physically, and it's been great. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.